Hi, folks. So today I want to take a break from the computer science papers we've been reading lately and look at something a little bit different. This was a paper published in Science in 2008 and looks at how the online availability of journal articles affects their citation patterns. This caused some controversy when it was first published because the author's results here are quite counterintuitive. The conventional thinking is that as more and more scholarship becomes available online, it will become easier and easier to find. But what the patterns of citation show that as more journal issues came online, the citations tended to become more concentrated, both in terms of time window as well as in terms of the journals and articles that were cited. The citations tended to become more recent and they tended to concentrate to fewer journals and fewer articles than before. Now, I am certainly not nostalgic for the times when I had to go look in long library shelves and photocopy articles out of journals. But I think what the author is trying to say here is that the affordances of looking at physical journals versus online searching are different. And we should look at those differences and try to understand how they affect the resulting scholarship. For example, even now when online access is widespread, we see that once articles are found, people print them out to read them in depth, and I certainly do this. The central question this paper looks at is the effect of online availability of journal issues on citation patterns. Now, one would think that as more scholarship becomes online, scholars would read more papers, they would be exposed to much more of a diversity of papers, and start citing papers away from the core journals of their fields. However, what the author finds here is that even as more scholarship became available online, scholars tended to cite more recent articles and they tended to cite fewer journals and fewer articles. So the citations became more concentrated, both in terms of time and in terms of journals and articles. What data sources did the author use? The most crucial one is the citation index, and this seems to have covered science, social science, arts, and humanities, and was the most complete source of citation data available at the time. This was joined by data regarding when journals became available online, as well as serial number data. So, combining these three data sources, the author was able to make a statistical model for how online availability of sources changed citation patterns. Let's get right into the results. The first question that the author investigated was whether citation depth has any relationship with how many journal issues are online. The definition of citation depth is the years between the article written and the citations in that article. So if citation depth is longer, that means you're citing older articles. If it's shorter, that means you're citing more recent articles. And citation depth is linked to the depth of online journals, which is again how many years back issues were electronically available for during the year when the article was written. And here's what the author found. The average citation depth was 5.6 years. That is, the average journal article cited research that was 5.6 years old on average. The author found that if that journal's issues became available online for 15 years, an additional 15 years, either commercially or for free, the average age of references would decrease to about 4.5 years. So, as more journal issues became online, scholars started citing more recent work. Now let's look at the diversity of articles and journals that were cited. Between 65 and 2005, there was a clear trend of more distinct articles being cited in the literature. But it looks like online availability was not what caused this. What the author found was that if you get 5 additional years of online availability of literature, the number of distinct articles cited within the same journal dropped from 600 to 200. The number of articles cited within the same subfield would drop from 25,000 to 15,000, and the number of journals cited would drop from 19 to 16. In other words, this data indicates that online availability of literature, the diversity of citations, both to articles and journals, below what it would have been had the journals not been online. So each additional year of issues being available online was associated with a 14% decline in the diversity of articles cited. The model shows that if there were an additional 10 years of journal issues that went online, then the citation concentration would increase by nearly 20%. In terms of concentration on the time axis, the model shows that an additional 1 year of online availability corresponded to a 9% drop of articles cited in the last year and a 7% drop of articles cited in the past 20 and 30 years. To summarize, what this data shows is that as more scholarship came online, citation patterns clearly shifted. And how did they shift? They were concentrated more and more. Fewer articles were cited, and citations were concentrated to those fewer articles. Also, more recent articles started becoming cited more. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. The whole purpose of science is to arrive at consensus through a long chain of scholarship. And it looks like having papers available online quickly lets scientists search and arrive at papers that indicate the current consensus in the field. The consequence of this is that articles that are not part of the consensus, that may be marginally related, are ignored. In other words, findings that don't quickly become consensus will be quickly forgotten. All in all, we're making science more focused and also a bit more narrow. And I think the author tips his hand here and sounds a little bit nostalgic for a past where scientists read a more diverse and also cited a more diverse range of literature. I hope that gave you some food for thought, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.